The next wine, Tim, is also Cloudy Bay Sauvignon,
Yep.
but it's called TeKoko.
Exactly.
Now this is of course an aged in oak style of Sauvignon.
Yep.
Some people would be a little cynical to suggest that Sauvignon doesn't work with oak, and why are you doing it? Are you jumping on the bandwagon? Are you just sort of commanding higher prices for something different? Tell me your version.
No, this is something that, technically started back in 1991. It was a small parcel of wine that was tucked away, fermented in old French oak barrels. And it was all wild fermentation.
Just done as an experiment, was it?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
And maybe taking a little bit of old world influence in an approach to making Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough. Those wines with wild fermentation can often take a lot longer in terms of that alcoholic fermentation eating all the sugar up. And they were still ticking away at the end of the year, were left there, they passed through malolactic fermentation, and because they were still sweet, never actually made it to the blending bench for this wine, the Sauvignon that we're probably better known for. And ultimately, when people went back to it, decided there was something in this and released it as a single vineyard wine. And it was done again and again, and eventually turned into its own wine in its own right, I guess you'd say. And we named it TeKoko, which essentially is a shortened down name for Cloudy Bay in Māori. There's Māori being the indigenous people of New Zealand. There's a story involving a Polynesian explorer called Kupe, who was travelling on his raft hunting a giant octopus with his wife. A big storm blew up, they pulled into the bay of Cloudy Bay, dredged the seabed for oysters because they were getting hungry, and the tool that they used to get the oysters off the seabed floor is called a TeKoko, which means the scoop.
Right.
And the local iwi or tribe of people in Marlborough's name for the bay of Cloudy Bay is TeKoko, or Kupe, the scoop.
Okay, because Kupe is a name that's used by another wine company, Escarpment, I think, have a wine called Pinot Noir.
Yep,
Kupe,
absolutely.
that's right.
Yep.
So obviously, yeah.
Kupe features prominently through a lot of Māori legend.
And a quick tasting note on this wine before we finish on this. I mean, you know.
Sure. So I get a lot more sort of winemaking built complexity in this wine, but it's done in very much a hands-off way. So it's all wild fermentation and spontaneous malolactic fermentation, and 18 months on yeast lees. So instead of being all about really fresh, upfront vineyard flavours, this has more of a memory of the vineyard, I often say. But I get characters like lemongrass, lemon thyme, pink grapefruit, honeysuckle and jasmine, nectarine, and other yellow stone fruits. So it's a very complex wine,
I can
nice
see all
mealy savouriness. And it's a fascinating wine to actually make, because you're really just sitting back and watching it evolve in these old French oak barrels. And after 18 months of sitting in those barrels, it's quite amazing. You've started off with fruit that essentially was expressing itself like this and can come out like that. Then it has another 18 months in bottle just to integrate and come together. So
and you only make a very small amount of this, don't you?
Yeah, not a huge amount.
Yeah, I know it's sort of hard to get hold of.
Yeah, but a really interesting expression of Sauvignon from Marlborough. It's probably a wine that polarises people to a certain extent.
Well, there are certain people who will say, what's the point? You know, why do it?
Well, I think when you smell it and taste it, to me, I think you can understand what the point is.
That says it all. Okay, great, thank you very much.